This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me, as usual, are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
This week, we have four main reviews for you. We're going to kick off with the Victorian-era set thriller, The Gates. Then we have a more contemporary film, Call Her King. Then a cult film in the making, Skinamarink, and Bad Girl Boogie. Our short shot is We Hunt Giants, and then we're going to round off with our throwback, Black Plague. So without further ado, let's crack on. Our first review then is The Gates. In a 19th century prison, the governor receives an electric chair and uses it for the execution of the satanic serial killer William Colcott. However, in the days following his death, strange occurrences start happening on death row, forcing the governor to bring in some investigators. I do like this. I think it's a film of it tries to be two things at once. But I don't know about you guys, but you know, when we've talked about Steve Lawson's films in the past, we've often said, I wonder what his films would look like with a budget. And I think this does sort of skirt quite close to, you know, to that. I reckon, you know, a Steve Lawson film with a bit more money would look a lot like this. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, true. I
completely agree. That's exactly what I thought when I was watching it.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially it is kind of like, you know, set in one place. You know, there's Steve Lawson's normally are, but it just it does look a bit more polished than that. But to be fair, it wasn't bad. I thought it took a little bit to get going. You talk about 45 minutes to an hour before you see anything really of the curse or however you want to call it. But it was good. The major thing for me was the performance of Michael Year. I just didn't buy him at all. Everyone else I thought was great. I mean, obviously you got John Rhys Davis in there, who's, he's legend. Just he is, and he's gonna bring whatever he has to do. But I just thought he was a bit off. That Michael Yare, and it's a bit of a shame for thinking Richard Brake as well, because he's got like 5 minutes at the beginning and a couple of, like a minute cameos later on in the film, and that's about it. And I like him, he is decent actor. Stuff like is it Barbarian he was in recently?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I do like him. I think he's a good actor, but it just seemed a little bit slow to get going, and you can see the ending coming a mile off as well. That final shot, you know exactly what was coming there. But all in all, not bad. And I agree with what you're saying about it. I mean, like it's a bit of a Steve Lawson film with a bit more money. It definitely did look a lot more polished.
Rich, how did you get on with The Gates?
Yeah, I was pretty gripped by this from the get-go, really.
It's got it has got a great prologue.
Yeah, and I'd say it's got it does have a very sort of distinctive look and feel to it. Say it's a style that Steve Lawson has sort of made his own, and this is sort of I mean, the fact that we're likening it to a Steve Lawson film instead of a Hammer film or whatever, for example, I think tells you something. It sort of says about what sort of hold Steve Lawson has over this particular style of film in the sort of DTV sort of realm at the moment. The curious thing about this one is it's actually an Irish film. It's an Irish production shot in Ireland, but it's set in London.
Yeah.
But they've found some, and they've shot it in some nice places that really give it sort of that period look and feel, as well as all the costumes and stuff, which I think is all really well done. There was that actually, can't remember if this not Infernal Machine. There was that other period horror film we saw. You know the one I'm talking about, the Laurie Brewster
yes,
film, which was set in the old house and stuff. That was another film that sort of came to mind. John Rhys Davis. I mean, that's quite and one of the unique things about it is, like, John Rhys Davis has a proper meaty character here. He's got he is essentially one of the main leads. It's more of an ensemble kind of thing, but he is basically a lead in this in a way that we don't normally get to see him. He's kind of that guy who turns up for a few scenes or plays the villain, or a supporting character or whatever. Here he gets to dominate the film, and he's as vibrant a screen presence as he ever has been at almost 8 years old. I know he's in the new Indiana Jones film a little bit as well and stuff.
Yeah. He's in it more than you'd think as well.
Oh, is he in in the Jones film?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's good to hear. That makes me want to see it a bit more, actually. So that's really good. I think the cinematography is an excellent asset to the film. Bershi Voyna is the cinematographer. Really good. Filming of the locations and the lighting and everything. Like you guys are saying, it's quite limited its locations. It ends up sort of closing in on the sort of the prison setting, and because of the budget, there's only like 5 or 6 prisoners or whatever. But
it is death row,
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is. So, but I like that. I thought it was. I like the rest of the cast. The only thing I really feel that is perhaps another aspect of Steve Lawson's films that this would have benefited from is brevity, because Lawson generally makes his films about 70, 80, maximum 90 minutes, and usually around the 80-minute mark. And this one is, gaining on 2 hours. It's like an hour and 50 minutes, which, considering it has only a slight conclusion, I would say it's not the most grand conclusion to the story. Although there's not anything I feel like I'd really want to lose, because I enjoyed the experience, I enjoyed most of the scenes, I do think it should really have been no more than about an hour and a half for the particular story they're telling. So very, very, very pleasantly surprised by this one.
Yeah, I agree on the sort of length as well. I mean, that is the one thing. I think there are moments where it does sort of really, really work, like that opening bit, and when the sort of supernatural stuff's happening. But some of the sort of quieter moments, it does sort of drag a bit, which is a shame. But I like you say, where do you cut? It's difficult, because you got Emma Wicks's relationship with John Rhys Davis's character, and then you got sort of as you say, Michael Yarrow coming in as this he's a medium, I think, isn't he? His character.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really liked him in it. I thought that was one of the things it's kind of got this colorblind casting thing going on, because I'm presuming a black guy like himself would not have been walking around, being respected by all the people in the everyone he encountered.
I don't know. I really don't know. What people's, especially in England, I don't know what people's attitudes were to sort of black people, coloured people back then. It's so I don't know. I mean, the fact that he's wearing the sort of like tailored suit and everything would probably confuse people, maybe. Yeah.
The guy's just clearly got money, so he probably would demand a bit.
People would probably swallow their racism a bit, and just to, probably to partake of his money. But it is a pretty decent film. It was a nice surprise, this one. So how are we going to score it, Steve?
I'll give it a 7.
I'll join you on a 7. And Rich?
Yeah, if you want a period film that's a little bit like Wes Craven's Shocker or something like that, I think you can do, you can't do any wrong with this one. I would say 7 out of 10.
Yeah, 3 7s for The Gates. Go check it out. Our next film is Call Her King. Judge Jada King finds herself about to give life or death judgment on a young black man when his older brother, known as Black Caesar, storms the courthouse with his followers with the intention of saving his brother. Or does he have another agenda? This is a low-budget action movie, but certainly no worse than a lot of the films we've seen of late. I'm looking at you, Fortress. It's certainly a big step up from those sort of films. I did enjoy this. It is a bit rough sometimes, and it does suffer from one thing which really could have helped it, and that is the sound effects for all the guns. The sound effects for the guns are rubbish, unfortunately. They've got no weight to them. They've got no oomph. It's like kids playing soldier, kind of thing.
This is one thing I know you've been really hot on ever since I've known you. Is like you've got a real attention to this level of this kind of stuff.
You've got people carrying different types of weaponry, and they all sound the same in every single environment they're in.
It's the old adage of the CGI bullet holes and squibs and stuff.
Yeah.
Again.
Well, yeah, I know, but I can forgive that for a film of this budget.
I honestly, that's my.
That's your bugbear.
Yeah. It's like both together,
Yeah, I don't notice them so much because I think they have improved over time. The way they're done. There are some sort of Amdram moments in this, I think, but the central characters I think are really well done. The woman playing Judge King, I thought she was really good. The guy playing Black Caesar was very good as well. The other guy who's like her assistant, the sort of grizzled guy,
Johnny Messner.
Yeah, I thought he was good, and it was interesting to see Nick Turturro in this as well. He of NYPD Blue back in the day. So yeah. So overall, I did enjoy this. More so than a lot of the sort of low budget action films we've seen. Steve, how did you get on with Call Her King?
It was okay. I don't think I was as impressed as you were. But it's not bad. I mean, there's just certain things that threw me, like I said, the gun noises, the gun squibs, but also when you've got like all the, I don't know, like bad guys going into the building or heading up to the building.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, and they're all like doing it in sync. It's like
like robots.
Yeah.
And I was
that was the Amdram moment I was thinking of. It's like, this looks really cool. It's like, no, it doesn't. It looks really forced.
Yeah, it looks weird. It really does. And but apart from that, it was pretty enjoyable. I mean, obviously you've got a lack of budget there, which you can see. But pretty much, like you said, the lead performances were actually pretty decent in this. Couple of Amdram bits and stuff like that. But apart from that, not too bad. Not too bad.
I thought this worked really well. Just trying to look up the lady's name who played Jada King. It was
Tori Norton.
Tori Norton, yes. So I thought, as I said, she put in a good performance. It was quite, quite a vulnerable performance. There's an interesting bit early on when she has to use the gents' toilets and she overhears two of her speech marks colleagues talking, and one of them is clearly not only racist but incredibly sexist and misogynist at the same time. So I thought it was quite funny when he's the one who gets put a gun to his head as tried leverage. I was just like, no. Which I thought was really funny. The fight scenes are actually really well done in this. They're not overly sort of choreographed, but the performers do a good job. And it's interesting seeing having a villain who actually had a decent sort of motivation and agenda going in. You think he's there to save his brother to begin with, but other people are doing other stuff, and it kind of reminded me of Solid Rock Trust a little bit in that regard. It's a bit of like smoke and mirrors kind of thing going on, and you're not sure exactly what's going on until sort of towards the end. But the other sort of big part of this as well is it sort of focuses the attention on the plight of black people in the judicial system. The whole thing about his brother's case, where evidence had been suppressed basically because it didn't fit the and this comes up a lot with lots of different things, not just in fiction but in reality. It's like, well, this guy's guilty, but the evidence says he isn't. Well, better get rid of the evidence then. You better not tell anyone about that bit, because otherwise we'd have to do some work. So that whole thing was quite interesting, and the way they sort of broke down the his brother's trial to sort of show where the inconsistencies were. So it was all pretty good. Rich, what did you think about Call Her King?
Well, the first thing that jumps out at you is the title. It's like Her King. It's that juxtaposition of a very masculine position and the feminine. So you would even immediately think of the woman king. Mm-hmm. So I would say it's like evoking the woman king, but also very conceptually similar to Die Hard. And it opens with King in the dojo, and it's quite a good scene in which it's trying to highlight her determination, but also her shortcomings,
her rashness,
and then it immediately establishes her character, as in that sort of action movie kind of vein. She's a woman of action kind of thing, but then it sort of shifts away and goes into the family drama and everything. But then it's not so much of a surprise later when she gets more involved in the action, because we've had this sort of opening scene to sort of establish that. There is that kind of, it's not this explanation, but it's the one that they usually throw in. It's like, I grew up on army bases or whatever like that, where they suddenly explain the fact that, well, how can they use these automatic weapons and everything? But she's got her own sort of explanation.
Got her own background for that.
For that. But it's director Wes Miller. I haven't really seen any of his other films, although I have been familiar with them. The film is probably would arguably be his most high profile, because of the Bruce Willis factor, is A Day to Die, which I haven't seen that one, but I can imagine what it's like, because those films have a very sort of particular sort of look and style. I thought this one had.
Type, yeah.
Go on.
No, just saying they are of a type. Yeah. Yes,
they are of a type, but I think this one had a quite a solid, aesthetic to it on the low budget. I thought it worked quite well. The stuff where it did get a bit boring in the courtroom itself. So there's all this stuff where the villain is sort of conducting this sort of like mock trial kind of situation and everything, and I really sort of zoned out with all of that.
Yeah,
you did.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, the film sort of it's very earnest, sort of very serious, but I started to sort of end at the beginning, in the first part. I very quickly started to go, oh, come on, it's like the villains come along and they kill someone and then they just throw the gun away, and without seemingly wiping it for prints or anything. And then there's like they go in, there's only like two of them at the start, but they go into the courthouse, no ID whatsoever, and they're literally allowed to basically walk in.
Oh yeah, there are definitely things like that, and also the police captain who receives he receives the tape recording, sort of saying what's going on. Unfortunately, he wasn't very good.
No.
He was very very wooden. But it did make me laugh a little bit because the sort of tape recording sort of saying while you're listening to this is going on at the courthouse, and by the time you do anything, we'll be gone. And I'm like, oh, good then. I don't need to do anything. I'll just let you be.
But then there was, there was the stuff like when the army, basically the army of henchmen, sort of comes in, and they're all doing these like walking this sort of like robotic way, and they've got these face masks and stuff. And I was thinking, this is just silly now. I wasn't really having fun with it.
I totally agree that. That's the bit that seemed sort of like very amateurish to me.
But I did get interested once again when the action kicks in the latter part. Let's say the last part of the movie. I did get a lot more interested. You say the action being pretty good. I say yes to a point. I was quite
the fight scene rather than the gunfights. The actual.
Yeah, I was quite pleased to see in the end credits, because I didn't know beforehand, that the action was done by Felix Betancourt and Yardi Neves, who have got they've got loads of really great shorts on YouTube with I think it's their company, Distinctive Light Entertainment. A whole bunch of really good stuff I've seen from them. The problem here is I think there's a lot of good choreography in that, but it's like edited to hell. So I didn't.
It's not the worst editing I've seen.
Yeah, I was a bit perturbed by it, I guess. I was like, I was getting a bit annoyed about the editing between the actors and the stunt people and constant cutting or whatever, which some of their work that I've seen that they've made themselves, as in that they've directed themselves, has been of a much better standard. So that's a slight quibble. Resolution and stuff, and I'm not sure if the twist works, and
I don't think
things
it
like
works.
that.
No.
I think it sort of tries a bit too hard. There is an action scene towards it. There's a part of the action scene at the climax where they try to use this flashing red light effect, and I just couldn't see what the hell was going on. It's just too dark and stuttery. That sort of device, didn't really work. But I think there's enough in here that's interesting and entertaining. I'm glad I've seen it. It's nice to see a film that, an action movie that is slightly different to the usual, but still familiar enough that you can sort of enjoy it. That our heroine is a bit different to the standard sort of Mila Jovovich or whatever type. So she's
she's more like
she's more of a Viola Davis.
Queen
Latifah. That's what I was going to say. Do you think this is? That's exactly what I was going to say. Do you think it's stuff like not just The Woman King, but stuff like The Equalizer, which has kind of spurred on films like this to start getting made? Because I haven't watched much of The Equalizer, but that was a surprise bit of casting when Queen Latifah, who was not known as an action star or anything, was sort of put in that role. And it does make me actually curious to check out the show. At some point.
I've seen a couple of episodes, but I must admit I'd rather go back and watch the old Edward Woodward ones.
Or Denzel Washington. What do you think of Denzel Washington?
Yeah.
Because that's the weird thing is they've got a TV show and the movie franchise running essentially concurrently with two different incarnations, which is really unusual. Anyway, we're getting off track a bit.
So this film is going on a cable network called BET Plus.
Yes,
I believe in the States.
I presume that over here it will probably turn up on something like Channel 5.
Yeah.
If it doesn't go to VOD.
I'd imagine VOD. I think, hopefully. But okay, so how are we going to score it, Steve?
I'll give it a 6.
And Rich?
Yeah, a 6 from me as well.
Yeah, it's 3 6s for Call Her King. Definitely worth checking out. Our next film is Bad Girl Boogie. A mask-wearing serial killer is murdering people within the gay community. As Angel and her friends reel from the deaths of people close to them, they try to work out who is targeting them. So, Steve, this comes from a director called Alice Mayo Mackay. She's Australian. She's also trans and incredibly young. She started making films when she was about sort of 12, 13, from what I can gather. Rich and I have covered some of her shorts before. She's got a film on Shudder called So Vam, which is about a vampire makes friends with this girl. Girl? Oh boy, I can't remember. But sort of hunting sort of bigots, you know, they're the people she sort of feeds off. It is pretty decent, if very low budget. This film apparently had a budget of something in the region of 13,000, I believe, Australian dollars. So a pittance, basically.
Yeah.
But you know, she does so much with this film. It evokes a lot of different things. There's a touch of like Argento and Fulci in there, a bit of Carpenter's like Halloween going on, but at the same time, it's its own thing. There's a great bit early on. I don't know who the actress is, but there's one actress who puts on the mask, and her whole body language changes. She does such a good job of sort of selling the fact that she's been sort of possessed by this mask, sort of thing. Worked really, really well. One thing this film really gets, you know, one of its strengths, I should say, is how it deals with grief, because I guess a lot of sort of slasher films, they take place over one night. You know, stuff happens, people get bumped off, you know, in the course of an evening, you know, a slumber party, or, you know, some other party, or it's Halloween or something, you know. But this takes place over a course of days or weeks. So, you know, the characters have to deal with the grief of actually losing people, rather than sort of like just running for their lives all the time. You know, they actually have to face that, which does make this quite unique. But yeah, overall, this was great. You know, it is a step up from So Vam in terms of quality. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought it worked really well. There was a few sort of little nice nods. Some of the character names, sort of nods to sort of some of the references, you know, and influences. But I thoroughly recommend this, and I would give this an 8 out of 10. I urge everyone to go check it out. Our final film is Skinamarink. Two young children awaken in the middle of the night to find their father missing, and all the windows and doors have disappeared from their house, trapping them inside. Another low-budget film, Steve. This one has caught the attention of the horror community on Tinternet, especially Twitter. And you know, for such it is
leaked, didn't it?
Yes,
it got leaked online after, I think it was South by Southwest, where the premiere.
Correct. Yeah, so I had a premiere at SXSW. And as you say, it got leaked. I think it was an accident. It wasn't actually, you know, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was, because I noticed, you know, a lot of some of the screeners we get now, for example, they will set them up on YouTube, but have them unlisted. So you know, only if you were given the sort of location. And I think that was what they were doing, and someone said it to public, or you know, something along those sort of lines. Anyway, so yeah, as a result, it did get a lot of sort of word of mouth, and you know, people got to see it, and then it actually had a theatrical release in the States, I believe, you know, a limited one at least, and it's kind of this, you know, this generation's Blair Witch in a way, on that sort of level. Now, I know, for example, your son was quite interested in seeing this.
Yeah.
What did you make of it in the end?
Absolute shite. couldn't do with it at all. If you're gonna make a film, have at least one shot where there's something properly in the frame. it's all, as you're going through, it's like the corner of the TV screen showing these old cartoons, or you know, the top of a door frame, or the bottom of the bed, and it was nothing happens.
Nothing on the screen, at least. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know what they were going for. It's probably lack of funds, lack of money, and I commend them for doing something kind of different, but it wasn't for me at all. I mean, I think there was one part that kind of gave a little bit of tension, where one of the kids is looking under the bed. And I thought, oh, okay, we're going to get a jump scare here, something. No, nothing.
No.
Nothing at all. My son loved it, but yeah.
It could be a generational thing. I think I was right to call it this year. This generation's Blair Witch, because it is going to divide audiences. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to absolutely hate it and just be totally befuddled by it. I'm somewhere in between, to be honest. I've actually watched this twice. I watched it when it came on Shudder originally.
Yeah.
And the other thing to know, it's very long. It's pushing 2 hours.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And I must admit, there's times where I was like, come on, when's this ever going to finish? But I think that's part of the film's charm. Is charm the right word? In that it puts you in this very oppressive atmosphere. It's saying, imagine you're a child, and there's certain things you can't reach, and your mum's asleep and you can't wake her up, and this sort of stuff, and you can't reach the light switches, so everything's in this sort of like very, very murky sort of light, and you don't know what's really going on. And it's only your sort of like childlike naivety which isn't stopping you from freaking out like crazy. I did sort of get that idea of like, just being, can't wake mum up, the night just seems to go on forever, and then there's this sort of creepy voice, sort of thing going on, and your sister's no help, as it turns out.
I was just like,
but it just goes on and on, and you do kind of feel trapped in the film, unless you sort of like got to cheat and sort of fast forward or something. It's trapped you within itself, which is a sort of very interesting feeling. But I agree, it's also incredibly frustrating, as you say, because you're waiting for at least something to happen. There's a spooky voice at times, and then there's this bit at the end where they're asking like, who are you, and it just and then it just ends, and it's like, what? It's just bizarre. So I can, I do enjoy is the wrong word. I appreciate it on certain levels, but I'm very frustrated by it on others, I'd say.
But it just, so much of it as well is given to showing these old cartoons. Well, you can't even see it's just like the corner of the screen, and then all these Lego and
I imagine those cartoons. I imagine those cartoons are used because they're copyright free.
Oh yeah, it says that at the beginning.
Yeah,
doesn't it? It says that in the credits. These cartoons are out of copyright and stuff like that. But I just honestly, it didn't. Because sometimes something like this will draw you in, and but it just didn't at all. It just, in a way, it just wound me up, made me angry and annoyed, because it was just, like I said, nearly 2 hours of it. It was just, no, couldn't be doing with it.
You just want to scream at the kids, go back to sleep.
Yeah, just
go to bed, read a book or something. But no. Okay. How are you going to score it?
I'm giving it a 3.
A 3. As low as that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Couldn't stand it.
As I said, there's certain things I get, certain things I don't. And on that note, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. So, this, as I said, this is a definite Marmite film. This one, you're either going to love it or you hate it.
Well, that's the thing. It's a shame Rich hasn't seen it, because I wouldn't mind.
I'd love to find out what he made of it. That's true. There you go. So a 3 and a 6 for Skinamarink, which apparently is the name of a nursery rhyme, which I've never ever heard of. No. But there you go. It's an American thing. Whatever. 3 and a 6 for Skinamarink. Go check it out. Our short shot this week is We Hunt Giants. This is a promo short with plans for a series, I believe. In this one, we have 3 hunters who are staking out a Tyrannosaurus Rex. But who is hunting who? Quite like this one, I have to say. I think the CGI works really well. The main cast is the 3 guys. Do okay, but it is it is a slight thing. It's a one scene and done setup. Rich, can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, the curiously, it's a project from the I think he's Swedish, Swedish director Titus Parr, who's I'm most familiar with the film he did, The Perfect Weapon feature film with featured Steven Seagal and, funnily, Johnny Messner, who we were talking about earlier. He's done a whole bunch of shorts, and I think he tends to do sort of proof of concepts like this one for quite a lot of the projects that he's trying to get off the ground. And I think this one is one of his most ambitious. So with all the CGI and everything, it's got definitely that walking with dinosaurs, sort of Jurassic Park sort of cash-in kind of thing going on with it. But I think it works. The concept is clear. I think in terms of the structure of the short itself, it frustrated me is the title appears like over halfway
through,
narratively through. So it feels, if you're going to have the title in a film that's like 6 minutes, you have to put it at like the start or the end. And when it popped up, I thought, oh, that's the capper for the end of this preview. If you see what I mean, the end of this proof of concept that's the end, which would have been fine. But then it goes on. So then I'm sort of starting to get invested again. And then it goes, and then it only runs for like another 2 minutes. And then the credits kick in. I was like, that's put me on the wrong foot, because it's put the title, by putting the title in there, it's ruined the flow for me. I think they should have just left it and put the title right at the end, because it just completely threw me. Anyway,
I agree.
Aside from that, it's a very polished thing. I think the concept's clear. It's not one of these concept shorts where there's enough of a conclusion. I think you can indicate, you can get what the outcome of that particular situation at that time is going to be, but still it would have been nice to have just a little bit more. But it's fine. I'm not sure if it'll be interesting to see if it does develop into a feature or a series or something. I kind of feel like I doubt it, because I don't think it's going to stand apart enough from so many other projects already out there. I think in terms of a dinosaur short, we watched one called Hell Creek, I think it was, which had like a time travel angle, which I think was a much better, bit more unique sort of proposition. But the whole, cavemen versus dinosaurs is a fun concept. I was actually surprised when they started speaking in English. I thought they might go for they might go for a sort of a subtitled kind of approach to it, but which I think would have made, again, that would have been something that might have made it stand out a bit more. But it's I think it's fine and it's worth seeing, but I don't see much beyond this. unfortunately, although there is a lot of other stuff that Titus Parr is working on that I'm very interested in. Like there's a short called Fear of the Woods, which I think might be another proof of concept, which is like a Vernon Wells versus a bear kind of thing, which I'm really looking forward to that and stuff. So yeah, he's a filmmaker who's definitely one to watch. I just don't think this is necessarily the project.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Steve? What do you make of this one?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it does spoil the flow with the titles and stuff like that, and it's a bit short for me. It's literally just one scene and that's it. And it's a proof of concept. Yeah, I think it would work if he does get the funding and the budget to make it feature length, because the CGI and the dinosaur effects are pretty good. The characterization is pretty good, but it's just a bit short, and the title in the middle just really does kind of lose the flow on it, really.
Yeah. We're talking about the CGI effects, where I mean, we're talking about a guy actually being picked up by this dinosaur and eaten. It does look really, really good, I have to say.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I think I've spent a lot of time developing it, and the care and attention is there. You can see it.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't score the shorts, but we do recommend you check them out, and you'll find a link in the footnotes below. Our DTV throwback this week is Black Plague. In 1348, with the horrors of the Black Death haunting Europe, English soldiers return home from war with a French nobleman as hostage. When people in their home village start to die, it is believed that the Black Death has struck once more. However, there are other dark reasons behind the sudden deaths. Interesting cast in this one, Steve. We've got Lena Heady leading, and we've got Jason Fleming turning up. And I knew, as soon as he turned up, I sort of realised how old this film had to be, because he actually still looks quite youthful in this. This was made in 2002.
Well, it came out in 2002, but if I'm right, I think it was made about 3 or 4 years early and shelved for a bit.
Okay, yeah, because it originally went by a different name as well.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it. Anazapta.
Yeah, which is what is carved into some of the bodies, I think, as it goes. Now, this the name is very similar to another film called The Black Death, which had Sean Bean and Eddie Redmayne in it, which was directed by Chris Smith. And the two do share the sort of, they're both sort of very grim and grimy films, dealing with the Black Death, obviously, but quite different in their approach, I have to say. I did like this, but it does take a while to get going. It takes a while to find its feet. The film it most reminded me of was The Name of the Rose.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that, but
I haven't, but I remember the trailer when I was a kid, so I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's that sort of warts and all kind of like medieval England sort of thing, but there's a series of deaths which could be the plague or it could be something else. And I thought it worked quite well. It was quite a decent, production, costumes and setting and everything. It's very well shot, well acted. I don't really have much
there.
But with the acting,
yeah.
There's one guy I didn't like in it, and that was the sort of court jester guy who's like simpering up to the bishop all the time.
No, the one who got me was Jason Fleming. I thought it was terrible. I was so glad when they killed him off, because it was just...
He could have ruined it, yeah.
He just, I don't know. Normally, I think he's quite reliable and good, but in this...
He's a sort of shouty brat, isn't he, basically? That's not really his forte.
He didn't work for me at all, but everyone else I thought was pretty good. Mm-hmm. And it was nice seeing Christopher Fairbanks. You don't see him in as much as you should. Yeah, to me, it took a while to get going, But I did kind of like really like the twist of who the French guy was.
Yeah.
And, you know, what had happened, how he was not created, but, you know what I mean, how he came to be when he was younger and stuff like that. And that I thought was quite shocking in a way. And, you know, what a bastard her husband turned out. You know, she's praising him and putting him up on this pedestal. And he's an absolute twat, to be fair.
Yeah. May he rot in a French jail kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah. But the only thing that got me is, you know, the French guy. He's like a cat. He's got so many lives, it's untrue.
Yeah. Well, he gets like all these hooks put in him. Then he gets drowned, and then he
gets beat up through an inch of his life, and it's like, you know, he's supposed to, what is it, 10 days grace she's got? So,
that's right. Yeah.
Covers some all these things in like 10 days in medieval England. I'm like, that's a bit of a stretch, that one.
Yeah,
but apart from that, it was actually pretty decent. Better than I thought it was going to be, to be fair.
Yeah, I must admit. This is directed by a guy called Alberto Sciamma, who's Spanish. He's done a film called Killer Tongue, which I kind of remember back in the day. Another one of his was Bites, which looks like some sort of vampire thing. Pretty solid work, I thought, overall. This is available on Amazon Prime, and it's definitely worth checking out. We don't score the throwbacks, but we do recommend you take a look. And as I said, you'll find this one on Amazon Prime. Go check it out. And that's the end of this week's show. Unfortunately, Rich had to run off. But other than that, thanks to him and Steve for watching these films this evening. Or talking about these films this evening, I should say. Don't forget to check us. Excuse me. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at the DTV. Bloody hell! Put your teeth in, mate. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at the DTV Digest. Also, the short shots where Rich puts a new short every evening around about 8 o'clock. Thanks for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.